If you watch the ref, he just like literally just looks up at the lights at that moment. Like he just literally looks up in the air so he doesn't see the
And he's
logo.
livid. He can't believe neither Hoovy or Ray can beat a cream puff sissy boy like Billy Kidman.
I knew you were gonna get it in there. I initially thought that Ric Flair got kicked in the back of the head.
I had to rewind it. I thought he got kicked in the temple and started bleeding.
Telling people, "Who's your daddy?" He stopped in front of a white girl and did the dance. And then when he got in the ring and did the dance thing, I don't know if you caught it, but he like rolled his eyes in the back of his head like he was coming or something.
Lost interest with Jerry Lynn's stupid karate.
He's definitely the odd man out of this. They're beating the hell out of each other, and here he comes karateing people.
Saturn and Triple H were trained by the same guy. Of course, they obviously didn't have the same career trajectory. One of them for the boss's daughter. One of them may have sucked dick for cocaine.
Can't roll it
Out
out.
they were looking for Conan. They find him and immediately start talking shit. Steiner goes, "Boy!" And Randy Anderson brought his kids. "I can't support them, Eric." And then Eric, he leans down and he goes, "Will you tell your daddy he's still fired?" They play like Nash didn't see Hall. Why is Goldberg convulsing? Because Goldberg sold the taser really weird.
Did he?
I mean, I've never been tased, so in fairness, that might be the perfect way to sell it.
Yeah, well, I think if you get tased, that would be an appropriate reaction. At least from what I've seen on the cops.
We got WCW Starrcade 1998. And the opening video is just various shots of Goldberg, which I found to be very weird. There's nothing to it. Not even any commentary. And then we're live in the nation's capital. Mike Tenay, Tony Schiavone, and Bobby the Brain Heenan are on commentary. Schiavone gets right to it. Goldberg is putting his 173 wins, no losses on the line against Big Sexy Kevin Nash. At this point, Kevin Nash is having grown men call him Big Sexy. Also, the World Heavyweight title is on the line. They didn't mention that at all. Apparently, the streak is more important than the title. And Heenan says Nash is bigger and more experienced, but Goldberg is coming in with momentum. If Heenan has to pick a winner, he's picking Goldberg. Schiavone says to Tenay that Nash does have an abundance of experience. And Tenay says Nash also has the momentum from the Wolfpack. And this is a dream match about to become a reality. Schiavone then says Ric Flair's back, and his first match is against Eric Bischoff. We then learned before the pay-per-view, Bischoff demanded that all members of the Four Horsemen are banned from the arena, which Flair agreed to that. And Heenan says Eric Bischoff is the most dangerous man in wrestling today. Flair fell into his trap. Heenan just hopes Flair doesn't get too emotional and doesn't let his emotions affect his actions. And then Schiavone says to Tenay, Flair's back is against the wall. He's facing Bischoff alone, while the entire black and white is here. That'd be the NWO. And then Tenay says Bischoff is abusing his power and stacking the deck against Flair, but Flair's the 13-time world champion, so that's quite the obstacle. And then Schiavone brings up DDP versus Giant. Tenay says it's DDP's chance for revenge. And then they just cut in a WCW QVC commercial, which was weird.
It's definitely weird. They really went after it too. Like, this is the most important event in history.
Yeah. And then they cut it to Mean Gene. Mean Gene says Mongo was escorted out of the arena by police, and then gets into why we're really here, the WCW hotline. Some people Gene can't talk about are backstage, but we can listen to Gene and some other guy talk about them if we just call the fucking hotline. And then the first match of the evening is Juventud Guerrera versus Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Billy Kidman. This is a triangle match for the Cruiserweight Championship. I guess Ray came out like a boxer, and he threw out his LWO shirt. And then Kidman and Ray started off by double-teaming Hoovy, and then Ray misses a punch, and he hits Kidman, and Kidman and Ray start throwing hands, while Hoovy, he cheered him on. He's like, "Yeah, get him! Yeah!" And Kidman and Ray cool off, and they double-team Hoovy again, and Hoovy takes them both out. And then they each do a bunch of counters that turn into offense for the third guy, which was pretty much the whole match. Like, Hoovy would escape some sort of fucking move, but then, like, Kidman or something would come out of nowhere and clothesline him. Or Ray would come out of nowhere and hit a Frankensteiner. Speaking of which, Hoovy hit Ray with a springboard Frankensteiner off Kidman's shoulders, and Ray hit Hoovy with a Frankensteiner off the apron. Hoovy's leg crashed into the guardrail. I thought that was going to play more into the match, but it didn't. Looked like it hurt, though.
Mm-hmm.
After taking out Kidman and Hoovy with an acai moonsault, Ray tosses Hoovy back in the ring. He hits a springboard Frankensteiner again. Instead of going for the pin, Ray picks Hoovy up and ultimately he eats a Hoovy driver. So good job, Ray. And then Kidman hit a shooting star press from the top rope to the floor. Ray and Hoovy just stood there for a really, really long time doing nothing, waiting to catch him. And then from out of nowhere, Eddie Guerrero comes out and the ref leaves the ring to yell at him. Meanwhile, Kidman, he gets hit with a sunset flip from Hoovy, but he reverses it and he pins Hoovy. Then Eddie runs to the ring. The dumb fuck ref thinks it's good time now to just check on Ray. And then in the ring, Eddie fucks Kidman, so now Hoovy's pinning him. And the ref sees it, and he goes to make the count. And then Ray comes out of nowhere. He kicks Hoovy. So then Kidman is pinning Hoovy, and yeah, Kidman gets the win. While Eddie was celebrating on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, good cruiserweight match, I guess.
Yeah, it was just kind of there, though. I don't know about this Kidman guy. I seemed to be a bigger fan of him when I was younger. Watching him now, it's just, yeah.
I like how he barely jumps on his shooting star press.
Oh, yeah, he's very ugly, I guess is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, he barely jumps.
Like, the luchadors are just so pretty. He's not. But it just, I don't know. It works, though, for him.
Yeah.
So after the match, Eddie's livid, calls Ray and Hoovy morons, says they're not LWO material. He can't believe neither Hoovy or Ray can beat a cream puff sissy boy.
I knew you were going to get it in there.
Like Billy Kidman. Eddie says Hoovy is an embarrassment and mocks Ray for being considered one of the best in the world. And he calls out that dweeb Billy Kidman, challenges him to a title match because Eddie knows he can win it. Then Kidman gets some mic time, which was a mistake. He wants to wrestle Eddie. Eddie wants to go get his ring gear. Kidman says, no. If I'm such a sissy boy, you don't need your ring gear. We can do it right now. Eddie says, well, I haven't had a chance to mentally prepare. And Kidman mocks Eddie. Then they agree to fight in jeans.
Kidman was already in jeans, so he had an advantage. He knows how to wrestle in jeans.
And he had jean shorts.
Yeah. I did like, first of all, yeah, Eddie called him a sissy boy, which was funny enough.
A cream puff sissy boy.
As a part of this whole diss, he said he's probably in the back combing his hair, getting ready for a date. And you couldn't beat him. I like how he just threw out, he's combing his hair, and you couldn't beat him. Like, that's what makes him a sissy. He combs his hair.
I just like a lost to this cream puff. So Eddie Guerrero versus Billy Kidman for the Cruiserweight title. Started off with Eddie just beating Kidman's ass so much that he lost a shoe. And Ray beat Hoovy and Eddie with Eddie's shoe when Eddie used the ropes for leverage. Kidman fires back. Bonetti goes for a top rope Frankensteiner. It's blocked. Someone gets on the apron and it distracts the ref. Kidman goes up top, but then he gets crotched by Hoovy. Eddie goes and tries to do something to Kidman, but Eddie's guy's still on the apron fucking with the referee. And Ray comes and he crotches Eddie on the ropes. And then Kidman hits the shooting star press 1, 2, 3. Ray and Kidman celebrate.
Yeah. I guess the story is Ray's, I guess he lost the match and he had to join or something.
I don't know why he was there.
Well, they said he's not in the LWO by choice, so I assume it was that he lost the match and had to join.
But he was there by choice to begin with, wasn't he?
At some point, yeah, but...
Okay. It's kind of weird that he's revived this group that he was forced to be in.
Well, enough time has passed. No one would remember that.
Let me get a Nash Goldberg hype video, I guess. It's brief. Then we have Norman Smiley versus Prince Iakea. Smiley slapped the shit out of Iakea. Iakea slapped the shit out of Smiley and had intensity. Smiley was the heel, of course, because he was darker. Smiley deserved it, though, because he danced for no fucking reason. And the fans got into Smiley's dancing for no fucking reason.
Well, you see, he's as vanilla as they come, Norman Smiley, so they had to give him a dance to get some kind of reaction for him.
I guess. I thought it was kind of weird how he was just laying all over Ikea with his almost nakedness. It was very uncomfortable to watch.
Well, first of all, he was telling people, "Who's your daddy?" to the crowd, and then he would do his little dance. He stopped in front of a white girl and did the dance. And then when he got in the ring and did the dance thing, I don't know if you caught it, but he like rolled his eyes in the back of his head like he was coming or something, and making a face. It's
I
really weird.
well, I thought the whole thing was weird. That was,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean, I
know. I think
remember,
that's what you see when you don't have anything better character wise. So then you just do stupid shit.
I remember that dance, but yeah, I don't know.
I seem to remember him having like a wooden horse like Chavo did. I could be wrong though.
With that dance.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would make sense though, because yeah, that dance is wooden horse esque.
I remember him carrying something. Yeah.
But they had to give him something because he was as about as vanilla as they come.
He can't just be a good wrestler.
No, you got to have a thing.
Or he can't be like a New Jack.
Not at that time,
New Jack was New Jack at that time.
but he was in a different company.
So?
That's not how Eric Bischoff wanted them booked.
Yeah. Have him dance like good call.
That was not Eric Bischoff's vision for the company.
Mm. Well, then we, Smiley won with a crossface chicken wing. It was a hell of a struggle getting it on him, so it was nice. I thought this was a hard-hitting match. I just didn't care, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I was like, is someone else coming out, or is this really going to be the match?
Well, then Scott Hall comes out unannounced. He says being in DC for the holidays is just too sweet. He says 1998 sucked for him, but it was his fault. Hall lost everything he cared about, but that's okay. Later on, a guy he looked at as my big brother has the opportunity of a lifetime. He says he used to travel with Nash, talking about what it would be like to be the main man in professional wrestling. He says Nash told him a while ago that Hall had to prove himself. He says the only person he needs to prove himself to is 6'6" and hotter than 10 movie stars. And he says, fuck 1998. 99 is going to be my year. And then they just play a video of Bam Bam Bigelow beating the shit out of Scott Hall in the back.
They sure did.
And then Nash, he gets into it with Bigelow. And Goldberg and Red Rooster were there for some reason. Nash and Goldberg and Bam Bam had a triple threat match, which ended in a DQ. For some reason, Hall attacked Goldberg instead of Bam Bam.
So that he can get disqualified.
I know why, but logically speaking, we just saw Hall get the fuck beat out of him by Bam Bam Bigelow in the back. He was getting thrown into the vending machine and everything. I don't give a shit what, prize you're going to get for some arbitrary match. If somebody beats the fuck out of you like that and you have a chance for retribution, you're going to go out after that guy.
They're making too much sense of it. They got to keep the streak alive. Or not have him out there at all, but yeah, that's another. And I guess the rules didn't apply here, as it would make sense from earlier, because everything was done behind the ref's back. But it's a triple threat, so it should have been no DQ. But I guess that's not WCW rules.
Who the fuck knows? I just know the Hall should have attacked Bam Bam with what they showed me. Hall just looks like a simp now. Well, then we get Ernest the Cat Miller with Sonny Ono versus Perry Saturn. It looks like Miller and Ono are on better terms than the last time we saw him. Remember, Miller made Ono fight Saturn, and Ono got his ass whooped.
We're still continuing this feud.
Well, Cat gets to the ring, he gets on the mic, and he says we should all be grateful because we get to see one of the greatest in action. And Miller assures us that he's one of the greatest athletes of all time. He says the crowd knows talent when they see it, and they love him. Of course, they all boo. And he vows that when he's done whooping on Saturn, we're going to know why he's the greatest. And Saturn came out. His bandana was on backwards. He really doesn't have any friends in the back, does he?
I think that was on purpose.
I'm sure it was on purpose. That's what I'm saying. Remember that time Chach went to go get the corduroy pants? And we pleaded with him like, Josh, this is a bad idea. You don't want to do this. He's like, I gotta do this. I don't think Saturn has people telling him not to buy the corduroy pants.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'm sure Saturn thought he looked like Tupac, but to me, he looked like Aunt Jemima. It didn't have the vibe I think he was going for.
Probably not with that mesh shirt he had on, too, or mesh tank top.
Yeah, he's not getting rid of that one. So even though they've been feuding, Miller, by law, has to give Saturn 5 seconds to leave. And if after 5 seconds Saturn's still in the ring, well, Miller will rip him apart with his bare hands. So Miller counts, and Saturn literally winds up his fist.
Very comically.
Yes, somehow he looked dumber than Miller. And Saturn kicks Miller's ass. Miller pretends to leave. Then he slides back in the ring and gets caught, which I thought was funny. Especially when he looked up, he's like, hi. Saturn continued Miller's ass kicking. Miller tries to beg off Saturn after bowing, and then he pokes Saturn in the eye. And Saturn neutralizes Miller's karate with mat wrestling. Miller flees to the floor. Ono tells Miller he can't wrestle Saturn. He must use martial arts. So Miller tries to karate Saturn, and Saturn just runs through Miller. It's really just a Saturn exhibition. And then Saturn misses a double axe handle from the top rope. He gets hit with a super kick. And then Miller super kicks Saturn again, tells Ono to get in the ring for some reason. And he holds Saturn's arms back. Of course, Ono misses the kick and he hits Miller. Miller gets pissed off at Ono and just kicks him clear across the ring. Little ass. And Saturn hits Miller with the Death Valley Driver 1, 2, 3. And Miller shrugs Ono off and he leaves with Ono chasing him.
Yep, more dissension between these two.
I kind of think it was cool that Saturn and Triple H were trained by the same guy.
Killer Kowalski or whatever.
Yeah. Of course, they obviously didn't have the same career trajectory. One of them fucked the boss's daughter. One of them may have sucked dick for cocaine.
Yeah. I can't rule it out.
Well, Mean Gene interviews Ric Flair. Gene reiterates that the Horsemen are banned from the building, and Flair agreed to it. Flair says he told the Horsemen no matter what, Bischoff's getting his ass kicked tonight. And when Flair says Bischoff's getting his ass kicked, he means it. Piece by piece. We're going to stomp his arms. We're going to strangle his neck. We're going to bite his fingers. We're going to gouge his eyes. We're going to kick him in the, you know it. Can't even say balls. And we put the figure 4 on him and we squeeze it until the bones go. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've felt it. And with a little luck, and by the grace of God, you'll find out what it means to be a jet flying, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing son of a gun. Because tonight, you're going to bleed, you're going to sweat, you're going to pay the price of wrestling tradition. Woo! No idea what any of that meant, but it sounded good.
Just classic Ric Flair.
Yep. And then they played a hype video. Bischoff is a power-hungry monster. I love when he fired Randy Anderson, and Randy Anderson brought his kids. I think it was around the holidays or some shit. So he came, he's like, hey, these are my kids. I can't support them, Eric. And Eric, he leans down and he goes, oh, you guys are so cute. Will you do me a favor? Will you tell your daddy he's still fired? And they're the cutest kids ever. It's great. So then Bischoff joins the NWO, disrespects WCW and its champions. Remember, he made the Steiners forfeit their titles forcibly.
Multiple times, yeah.
So then Bischoff gets suspended and somehow gets more power. And he fired Dusty. Dusty wore those short sleeve shirts and you're going to fire him. Well, Flair returns. He mixes it up with Bischoff. And then Flair has a heart attack. So Bischoff kicks David Flair's ass and makes out with Flair's wife, one of his ex-wives.
I think he was trying to really be like Vince McMahon at this point.
Well, I think he's really trying hard too, because they're throwing a lot at us.
Yeah, they just kept cutting to, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. I think that's what they were going for, was like, let's make him like Vince McMahon.
So, of course, they have to fight now. You kiss one of Ric Flair's ex-wives, you have to fight.
Yeah, probably like third or fourth ex-wife at that point.
Well, then they cut to the back. Buff Bagwell and Scott Steiner are looking for somebody. Turned out they were looking for Conan. They find him and immediately start talking shit. Bagwell talks about how he hit him with a chair. Steiner goes, boy. gets, gets in his face, boy. He says, the black and red are dead. You better realize that. And he says he promised Luger he wouldn't put hands on him, but he's not going to say the same for Conan. Boy. So Conan gets up. He wants to fight. And then Luger comes out of nowhere. He breaks it up. And somehow Conan's upset with Luger because Steiner will beat Conan's ass, but not Luger's.
Because he threw in there, we promised we weren't going to touch Luger, but you don't get the same courtesy.
Well, it's worth noting that Buff Bagwell and Scott Steiner are not on this pay-per-view. So I have no idea why they decided to accost Conan just at Starrcade. And I think Conan was competing with Saturn with who can wear their bandana the silliest.
Oh, Conan was full-on cartoon character at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, next we have Brian Adams and Scott Norton versus Fit Finlay and Jerry Flynn. So we learned that Goldberg versus Kevin Nash is now no disqualifications. Schiavone said, good. He thinks all world title matches should be no DQ. That's what the fans would want. That's how you get a real winner. No disqualifications. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
At least this match was hard hitting, but I lost interest with Jerry Lynn's stupid karate.
He's definitely the odd man out of this. They're beating the hell out of each other, and here he comes karateing people.
Norton and Finlay could be a good match. And then Norton powerbombed the shit out of Jerry Lynn and got the 1-2-3. I was less interested in this match than I was with Ayakea and whoever.
Smiley.
Yeah, Smiley.
I got more into this match than I was the Ayakea and Smiley match just because it was so hard hitting. Norton with his tongue sticking out, his little thing that he did. Like, when that tongue's out, you know he's putting in some work.
I love Scott Norton. I love Fit Finlay. Brian Adams is all right, but Jerry Lynn, man, those karate gimmicks just fucking take you out of it. Because you can't do karate without actually karateing somebody. So when you do fake karate, it's obvious.
Well, for the longest time, I didn't even know who it was. And they said his name multiple times at that point. Like, who's this guy again? Like, when he was getting tagged in, who's this guy again? I forgot.
Right.
Like, what is this guy even doing on the roster?
Well, hopefully that's the last time we see him. I don't know how he paired with Fit Finlay. That was just like, you two, you go out there and lose.
Yeah.
So after that, they play music and then cut to Mean Gene. And the music stops. Then Mean Gene brings out Eric Bischoff. And the music resumes. It's really weird. So Bischoff comes out, says he's sorry because he caused great pain and lied about Ric Flair. And now he wants to set the record straight. Bischoff says he's saddened Flair agreed to this match. Feels bad for Flair's family, but mostly he feels bad for Flair. He says it's clear Flair is pushing himself beyond his physical capabilities. We should all be standing and cheering for Flair because he's facing his biggest obstacle of his career, a bad heart. He says Flair's risking his life to step in the ring with him, and there's only one reason. He's broke. And he goes on about Flair not being fiscally responsible. And he says Flair paid for his own jets and limousines. The company pays for mine. And he says to Flair, when it comes to kiss stealing, you know who's the king. Because, you know, Bischoff kissed Flair's ex-wife.
Yeah.
And then we move on to Chris Jericho versus Conan. This is for the WCW World Television Championship. And they show a clip of Nitro before that, and Jericho beat up somebody that was dressed as Conan for some reason. I'm sure there was context to it. I didn't see any.
No, it's just classic Jericho. You know, he did the same thing with Goldberg, having the midget, or whatever that was.
Jericho also stole the TV title from Conan, so he's using all the angles for this one. Jericho gets on the mic, talks about how he can't understand Conan. He doesn't know what a rowdy or bowdy means. And he closes out by telling Conan to pull up his drawers. And Conan is the man of 1,000 catchphrases. That's all he is. Let me show you how to work on the mic and then do 100 prepared statements.
Yeah, he did his Orale, arriba la raza.
It was just one catchphrase after another.
Yeah, and he's got the first catchphrase of it all is let me speak on this. And you know the wolf pack is rowdy, rowdy, and bowdy, bowdy. So yeah, those are his catchphrases.
So I thought, as far as a Conan match, this is probably one of the more exciting I've seen in a while. Not since his first U.S. title run. I think I enjoyed a Conan match. So there's that. Jericho missed a top rope move after Conan got to his feet and yelled "Odele" in his face. He also missed a diving crossbody to the floor and landed right on steel steps that he positioned there. Jericho went for a lion tamer. Conan fought out of it, and he got sent to the corner. That took out the referee. And then Jericho hit Conan with the title belt. Jericho revived the ref by slapping him in the face, and Conan kicked out. It's a big moment. And then Conan hit a facebuster, locked in the tequila sunrise, got the tap out.
No choice but to tap out.
It's kind
But
of
I did,
surprising to see Jericho tap out to Conan.
yeah. But during the match, Tanay, he was like, these two men are heralded by a lot of people as like the futures of this industry. And I was thinking, did that pan out? I think it did.
At least for one of them.
I would say for both.
You think Conan?
I mean, he owns that AAA that's now acquired by WWE. Or does he own it or just run it? I don't know.
I thought he was in creative.
Yeah, I would say he's done a lot of stuff for the lucha scene. He's got his podcast. Seems to be working out for him. I don't watch it, but
It's hit and miss. So yeah, we go backstage. I guess they're not calling it the internet location today. And Tony the Tiger is talking to the Giant. And he says, most people who take a choke slam want nothing to do with the Giant ever again. But DDP took a choke slam and laughed about it. Well, Giant, who was laughing his ass off, goes all Will Smith on Tony. Says, tell all your little computer geek friends I'm going to squash DDP like the Giant I am and the cockroach that he is. And then Giant tells Tony never get in his face again. And then we have Eric Bischoff versus Ric Flair. Flair drops his robe on the entrance ramp and he immediately charges the ring. And then he beats the shit out of Eric Bischoff until the ref pulls him back. And then Bischoff uses the distraction to kick Flair in the temple from behind. Flair rolls out of the ring and Bischoff slams Flair's head into the guardrail, and this causes Flair to bleed. Bischoff takes control until Flair hits him in the balls 3 times in a row. And then Flair beats the shit out of Bischoff again. Ref tries to pull Flair off, and he gets decked. So Flair kicks Bischoff in the balls again, and he locks in the figure 4, and Bischoff taps out, but the ref's out. So Flair, while in the figure 4, crawls to the ref and then starts trying to revive him, which I thought was funny. And while that's happening, Mr. Perfect runs out, and he hands Bischoff knucks. So Bischoff socks Flair and gets the 1, 2, 3. And Mr. Perfect helped Bischoff to the back. And he kind of looked like Rick Rude.
yeah, surprising that this match went the way it did. I guess I shouldn't really be surprised, seeing as the fact that it was Eric Bischoff versus 13-time at this time champion Ric Flair. So it shouldn't have been competitive. I missed the guardrail spot, so I initially thought that Ric Flair got kicked in the back of the head.
I had to rewind it. I thought he got kicked in the temple and started bleeding. But no, yeah. He kicked him in the temple, Flair rolled out, and then Bischoff slammed his head against the guardrail, and then he bled. So that made more sense. Okay. I don't think it was competitive, though. Flair beat the shit out of him. Eric got the distraction. He had that little flurry of offense, but then Flair kind of shrugged him off. He did that. He was kind of standing like, come on. And he turned around and he got kicked again. And then, ref got knocked out. Flair took over.
They even called out, which I love that they said it too. There's no offense out of Eric Bischoff to this point. That's the way it should be.
Bischoff got offense after he cheated, essentially. Yeah. And he took advantage of that.
That's what I was saying about like Gunther and Pat McAfee. Is if McAfee was the heel, it could work because you could do stuff like that or have outside interference or whatever.
Yeah. Like Michael Cole.
Yeah. I also like how Bischoff kind of no-sold the leg. Because, he faked the injury on the leg. And then Flair was working on the leg. And then he just ran out of the corner and attacked Flair from behind.
Flair did the knee drop and Bischoff sold it really well. He was like rolling around the ring, grabbing his face.
Yeah.
I thought it could have been worse. I thought the Zbyszko Eric Bischoff match was worse.
I don't remember it, to be honest. I know Sabisco was Matt technician, but maybe that's just how he is.
I wonder whatever happened to him.
He got his little matches in.
Yeah, but he was on commentary.
I don't know.
Yeah. We get a giant DDP hype video immediately after their match at World War III. Hart beat DDP for the U.S. title thanks to the Giant. Page feuds with seemingly both of them. So Hart grants DDP another U.S. title match. Turns out to be a setup. And Giant attacked DDP with a chair and chokeslammed him through the stage. And that leads us to the Giant versus DDP. So they start off by spitting on each other. Well, Giant spit his gum onto Page, and then Page thought it was Even Stevens to spit just a big loogie on the Giant.
Well, he didn't have gum.
Okay. So then DDP takes it to Giant until it spills to the floor. And then DDP uses a trash can that just so happened to be sitting with the fans. Ref did nothing about that. And they get back to the ring, and Giant works on DDP's leg. Giant did a pop-up bear hug, which I thought was interesting. And then Giant hits a huge power slam and refuses to pin DDP. Like he does the 1, 2, not yet. DDP tries to sunset flip Giant, and Giant blocks it, and he does a choke slam and turns it into a backbreaker. And you hear the crowd just go, oh, such a cool spot.
Yeah, that looked nasty.
Yeah. And Giant tries to do something else, and DDP counters it with a DDT, which he calls the Diamond Dream. And then Bret Hart comes out with a chair. Page, at that point, goes for a diamond cutter, and he sees Bret Hart, and he just falls to the mat. Well, Bret, he's swinging the chair. He ends up hitting the Giant, and DDP low blows Bret. Page goes for the pin, and he doesn't even get a 1 count. So I guess they're selectively making the Giant strong here. So DDP does 2 top rope clotheslines. Then he signals for the diamond cutter, and he climbs up the top rope. Giant catches DDP for a choke slam. Page kicks him in the balls. And then Giant just goes, oh, I'm going to set you on the top rope now. So he sets him on the top rope, so then they can work in a diamond cutter out of the choke slam 1, 2, 3. But the diamond cutter is greater than a chair.
From the top rope.
Well, yeah.
Now, I initially thought, so he's going to do the clothesline, do another clothesline. For whatever reason, I thought he was going to, like,
Do a top rope diamond cutter.
Yeah, like dive at him, kind of like a blockbuster type deal.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to go that route, but he didn't. And the funniest thing was, so when the Giant caught him into the choke slam and he did the low blow, if you watch the ref, he just like literally just looks up at the lights at that moment. Like he just literally looks up in the air so he doesn't see the low blow.
Stupid.
Well, that ref was an idiot.
I thought it was good. Yeah. I like that the diamond cutter was more powerful than a chair. So if it was WWE, you get 5 F5s and get hit with a title belt, and that's it.
Yeah, they make it a devastating move. And they made the Giant really seem like a big deal.
I wouldn't say he's positioned the best in the on the roster, but they definitely treat him like a Giant.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of protected. Like he'll lose matches, but
he's not dressing like fucking fat bastard.
Yeah, he's not in any sumo wrestling matches. I was like even thinking during this match, if he would have stayed in WCW, there would be a real conversation on like best big men. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I got to watch Andre the Giant before he became, just like where he could barely move at the end of his career.
Apparently that was the Giant to watch. Apparently the Giant we got to see was nothing.
Yeah, I saw like that he was in New Japan, and apparently he was putting it in when he was there. So I didn't get to see that. But if this Giant had stayed out of WWE, it would be considered a real conversation on whether or not he was the best big man.
I don't know. We'll have to see how they treat him for the rest of his tenure.
True. But yeah, going to WWE, we squashed that all.
Well, finally we get to the main event. Kevin Nash versus Bill Goldberg. It's a no disqualification match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And Goldberg, on his way to the ring, stopped to sign an autograph for a fan. Just a sweet little moment.
Yeah.
So Goldberg came out and Buffer said he had won 174 matches, when in fact he had won 173.
Jinxed him.
A little bit. I thought they kind of, said 174 to make people think that Buffer fucked up and gave the finish away, to swerve people. You hear that 174, like, oh, now we know who's going to win. And then when he didn't, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much into it. Or Buffer could have just fucked up, which is probably more likely. So they start off by trying to outpower each other. Nash gets hit with a belly to back suplex. It was a big moment. Nash starts taking it to Goldberg, does his leg choke thing, and Goldberg just powered out of it. Nash tried to transition into an armbar, which was weird. And Goldberg does his leg submission thing. They go back and forth some more. Nash gets knocked on his ass with a right hook. Which is another big moment. You've seen Nash, especially when he was tagging with Hall, like you've seen people get the best of him, but he's never just been, punked like that.
Yeah.
So Goldberg hits a spear, goes for a jackhammer, and Nash negates it with a kick to the balls. And Nash kicks Goldberg's ass until Goldberg turns a suplex into a swinging neck breaker. So Goldberg's kicking Nash's ass, and he's trying to pin him, trying to win. Disco Inferno comes out, and he gets decked by Goldberg on the apron. He's also wearing a Wolfpack shirt, so that's sad. And Goldberg kills Disco with a spear, which I think that might be the best spear I've ever seen.
You should watch Braun Breakers against Carlito.
I have.
Also, even from that, I would say the Dolph Ziggler one was probably better.
Okay.
Goldberg, Dolph Ziggler.
That was a good spear, though.
He got annihilated. I was like, oh, he's the Carlito right now.
Then Bam Bam Bigelow comes out. Of course, Goldberg makes quick work of him. And then he goes to spear Nash. And then a taser appears and Goldberg gets shocked. It's Scott Hall. He's wearing a security shirt. So there's like a whole bunch of security people in the background. They're escorting Bam Bam out of the arena. So Hall, he shocks Goldberg and then he blends in with the security guys. I thought that was like a nice little detail. So then Nash hits the jackknife 1, 2, 3. And then they play like Nash didn't see Hall. He was confused. It's like, why is Goldberg convulsing? Because Goldberg sold the taser really weird.
Did he? I mean,
I've never been tased, so in fairness, that might be the perfect way to sell it.
Yeah, I think if you get tased, that would be an appropriate reaction. At least from what I've seen on the cops.
But yeah, that was Starrcade 1998. On the January 4th episode of Nitro, Kevin Nash was scheduled to face Goldberg in a rematch for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. But Goldberg was arrested because he was falsely accused of stalking Miss Elizabeth. Instead, Nash faced Hollywood Hogan, who had returned after a hiatus, purportedly to announce his retirement in the wake of his run for president of the United States. And he offered to face Nash in Goldberg's place. Nash would then lie down and allow Hogan to pin him, effectively handing the title to Hogan in an incident infamously known as the Finger Poke of Doom.
Boy, not a good run for them.
No. The match was followed by a reunion of the New World Order, revealing that Nash's victory at World War III and Starrcade had been a part of a conspiracy to get the title back on Hogan. All right, brothers. I'm going to go on vacation. You guys are going to do all this work, and I'm going to be on top. Okay, dudes?
Yeah, I'm going to come back and get that title, brother.
I love Hogan. After Starrcade, Goldberg feuded with Scott Hall. They faced each other in a ladder match involving a stun gun that sold out. After the match, Bam Bam came out and attacked Goldberg, and a feud started between them. It led to a match at Super Brawl 9. And the feud between Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair continued. Oh, thank God. Hogan eventually became part of the rivalry as well, of course. And the entire feud, which led to Flair gaining control of WCW for 90 days, the night after Starrcade, it culminated in Flair's challenging Hogan at Uncensored for Hogan's championship. So that'll be fun. But yes, our next WCW pay-per-view is sold out, 1999. We're in Charleston, West Virginia, and our main event is Scott Hall and Goldberg. It's a stun gun ladder match.
Really going off the deep end here now.
And it starts.
Yeah.
But before that, we have WrestleMania 37 Night 1. And it was at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. This is where WrestleMania 36 was supposed to be. It's following a merger of the WWE network under Peacock. So WrestleMania 37 became the first major WWE event for which US subscribers could only live stream the event via Peacock. Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil served as hosts of the event. Ebony and Ivory.
Yes. And it is noted that this was Hogan's first appearance after that video.
The Alexa Bliss, wasn't that after?
I think this one was the one
Okay.
that was. That's why they stuck him with Titus O'Neil.
Titus O'Neil. Well, the last match of night 1 is Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. I think it's for one of the girls' belts.
And it's one they show us to this day whenever they want to talk about the moments that are at WrestleMania. The first African American women to main event of WrestleMania. But it's night 1, so there you go.
Other notable matches, we have Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship. And we have Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Also, Braun Breaker and Shane McMahon face each other in a cage match.
That's not right.
What did I say?
You said Braun Breaker.
Excuse me, Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon in a cage match.
Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to have to get these hands from Shane.
Oh, he will, I'm sure.
Shane is going to be putting in that work on Braun Strowman.